blend quite nicely together.
It's a head floating in space.
I just noticed that.
Yeah.
You're good.
All right, I'll call to order the July 20th, 2020 regular meeting of the Saginaw Township Community Schools Board of Education. We'll start our meeting with roll call. I think Eric's on.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay,
David Jaffe,
here.
Janine Coughlin,
Present.
Mary Ann Bird,
Here.
Jan Collins, Tony Duncan,
Here.
Mike Colucci,
Here.
Eric Smith here.
Next on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt our agenda for this evening?
So moved.
Support.
Support.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call again, please. Eric, you there?
Oh, yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay,
I was
that's
on
okay.
mute. David Jaffe,
Yep, yes.
Eric Smith, yes. Mike Colucci,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
Mary Ann Bird,
Yes.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Jan Collins.
Okay, next on the first on the agenda is approval of our minutes from the last few weeks of meetings. First is our board policy committee meeting of June 29th, 2020. If you'll remember, we were advised the best practice is to have the board adopt the minutes because 4 members of the board serve on the committee. And for those members who of the board who are not part of the committee, you can abstain from voting on the minutes. So is there a motion to approve the policy committee meeting minutes of June 29th?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, any discussion? Eric, you're going to be busy here tonight. Roll call, please.
I see. Jan Collins. Well, do I have to keep saying Jan's name since she's not here?
No.
No, you don't.
Okay. Tony Duncan,
Abstain.
Mary Ann Bird,
Yes.
Mike Colucci,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
Eric Smith abstain, David Jaffe.
Yes. Next are the minutes of our public hearing on the operating budget from June 29th and our regular meeting of June 29th. And I believe these two can be taken together. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Pardon me.
Janine, is there a second?
Support.
Support.
Okay, any discussion? Eric, roll call, please.
Are we ready to vote? I'm sorry, my audio went out for a second.
Yep, we're ready for you.
Okay. David Jaffe,
Yes.
Eric Smith, yes. Mike Colucci,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
Mary Ann Bird,
Yes.
Tony Duncan.
Yes.
Okay. And then finally is our minutes of the board policy committee meeting of July 13th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, any discussion? One more set of roll call on the minutes, please.
David Jaffe,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
Mary Ann Bird,
Yes.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Mike Colucci,
Yes.
Eric Smith, yes.
Next is a treasurer's report. Mrs. Bird?
I move the Saginaw Township Board of Education approve the total checks, transfers, and wires as presented in the amount of $4,770,052.89. This amount covers invoices from June 24th, to July 15th, and the June 2020 payroll, related taxes, ACH transfers for benefits, ACH reimbursement payments, and sales tax.
Support.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Marianne Bird,
Yes.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin.
Yes.
Mike Lucci,
yes,
David Jaffe,
Yes.
Eric Smith, yes.
And the second item under the treasurer's report is the approval of district credit card invoices. Is there a motion there?
I can do that. I move that the Board of Education approve the district credit card invoices in the amount of $1,136.64.
$1,138.64.
Let me say that again. In the amount of $1,138.64.
We don't want to pay interest on those two unpaid dollars.
Nope.
Okay, is there a second?
Support.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mike Lucci,
yes,
Eric Smith, yes. Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Marianne Bird,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
David Jaffe.
Yes. Okay. Are there any board committee reports tonight? Okay. Then we'll move on to the 5 items, organizational items for the 2020-2021 school year. First is appointment of general legal counsel. A motion?
I'll take it. I move that the Board of Education approve Thrun Law Firm, PC, and Gary Campo of the Campo Law Firm to provide general legal services for the 2020-2021 school year.
Second.
Mary Ann, supported. Great. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
David Jaffe,
Yeah.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
Marianne Bird,
Yes.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Mike Lucci,
yes,
Eric Smith. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
I'm looking at the agenda on my phone and you guys on the computer.
After deep
Okay.
thought, you
Yeah.
voted yes. Okay.
It was a tough choice. It was a tough choice.
All right. Next is appointment of labor legal counsel for the 2020-21 school year. Is there a motion?
I can do it.
Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education approve Thrun Law Firm, PC, and Masood Labor Law Group as labor legal counsel for the 2020-2021 school year.
Support.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mike Lucci,
Yes,
Marianne Bird,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Eric Smith, yes. David Jaffe.
Yes. Next comes the highlight of Mary Dora's year, where we designate the person posting public notice. Is there a motion?
I move that the Board of Education designate Mary Dorr, Secretary to the Superintendent and the Board of Education, as the person responsible for implementing the public notice requirements of the Open Meetings Act for the 2020-2021 school year.
Support.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call.
Eric Smith, yes. Mike Lucci,
yes,
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Marianne Bird,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
David Jaffe.
Yes. Next is the appointment of our auditing firm for the next school year.
Bring it up if you need. Anybody else?
I can take it.
No.
I move that the Board of Education approve the firm of Yo and Yo PC to conduct the annual financial audit for the year ending June 30th, 2021.
Support.
Okay. Any discussion?
I
Roll
do
call.
want to, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I did want to know that we reached out to Yo and Yo to see if they would freeze their fee for the new year, given all the uncertainty around the budget, and they have agreed to do so. So I believe it says an additional $650 for this year on the fee, but that is incorrect. Since we spoke with them, that should now be 0 and a flat rate, same as last year.
Nice.
Good. We certainly appreciate that gesture. That's great.
Yep.
Okay. Any other
Now I have to
discussion?
vote yes.
Okay. Why don't you call the roll then, Eric?
Yep. David Jaffe,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
Marianne Bird,
Yes.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Mike Colucci,
Yes.
Eric Smith, yes.
Okay, and our final organizational item is designation of depositories for the next year. Anyone want to take that motion?
I can do it.
Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education approve the following financial institutions as depositories for checking accounts for the 2020-21 school year for the general fund, payroll, community education, sinking fund, nutrition services, debt retirement fund, heritage athletic account, and school internal accounts. Huntington National Bank, Wildfire Credit Union, Bank of America, Chemical Bank, JP Morgan Chase Bank. And for investment purposes, that the following financial institutions be named as depositories for the 2020-21 school year. First State Bank, Bank of America, CDARS, Chemical Bank, America Bank, Fifth Third Bank, Fifth Third Securities Inc., Flagstar Bank, Huntington National Bank, Independent Bank, JP Morgan Chase Bank, Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner, and Smith, Michigan Liquid Asset Fund Plus, Morgan Stanley Wealth Management, PNC Bank, Team One Credit Union. And further, that Bruce Martin, Superintendent, and Michael Walde, Director of Finance and Business Operations, be authorized to make deposits, withdrawals, and transfers to and from these investment accounts on behalf of the district.
Is there a second?
Support.
Thank you, Eric. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Mike Colucci,
Yes.
Eric Smith, yes. David Jaffe,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
I would like to say thank you to all for reading all this, since I don't have my board book in front of me. So thank you, Michael, and yes.
Mary Ann Bird,
Yes.
Is that everybody?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. I'll turn it over to Mr. Martin for the superintendent report.
So obviously the piece on everybody's mind is COVID-19 and continuing to plan for the new school year with our return to learn plan. We held a board retreat Friday afternoon. We went through a great deal of information and several different options. Got some feedback from the board on thoughts and concerns and questions that are still hanging out there. Put out a parent communication Saturday early afternoon, put out a staff communication Friday night. Jamie has prepared a short infographic that we're prepared to send out to our families tomorrow afternoon, without a lot of specifics on the plan, but just to lay out some parameters of the kinds of things we're working within from the governor's office. Tomorrow morning, Jamie and I are meeting with 40 representatives from around the district, staff from all levels, administrators, folks representing all different constituency groups. That consists of 6 subcommittees that all have very specific tasks that they're working on. Those subcommittees have been meeting periodically and are now getting back together tomorrow to give out subcommittee reports. We have some activities we're going to do with them to figure out where the things are, where the things stand that are good to go, and where the things are that are sticking points that really need some heavy discussion. This morning I met with folks from around the county on the subject of human relations and personnel issues, as well as all of our finance people. There are obviously a number of items that we're trying to work out relative to Family Medical Leave Act and all the things relative to personnel and HR and finance that we're going to be working through. So that was a productive meeting. Later this week on Thursday, we have our next superintendent's meeting from around the ISD. Now that folks have had a chance to get back and talk with their boards, talk with their in-district task forces to see where we are, if we're any closer to a common countywide plan that then would be personalized to each district and their obvious specific needs and communities. So since then, Mr. Jaffe and Mrs. Kratz and I have put together a timeline of kind of checkpoints along the way to make sure that we hit all of our deadlines and our targets. We sent that out, oh gosh, Saturday, I believe, and then possibly again today. Wondered if you had any questions or concerns or comments on that timeline. I think it gives several opportunities for families and for staff to check in and give us feedback and guidance on what they think of the rough draft, and then we'll take that back and do some more polishing. That night of the 30th rather, we'll have some sort of a Facebook Live event where Jamie and I and perhaps Mr. Jaffe would be there answering questions, talking about the plan, giving an overview, and then we would send out a second rough draft and provide opportunities for surveys and feedback after that. We then would bring all of that back together for an in-person board retreat, probably late afternoon on Friday the 7th. Wondering before we move on from this topic if we could nail down a time so that Mrs. Dorr could get that officially posted for the public. And then that next Monday night is our committee of the whole meeting on August 10th that we scheduled a couple months ago because we figured August would probably be busy with a lot of things to do. We would call a special meeting at the end of that committee of the whole meeting to look over the plan one last time and give a formal approval so that Jamie and I could submit it to the ISD and they could then submit it to the Department of Ed. So I feel like it's a nice timeline, gives ample opportunities. As I shared before, the Saginaw ISD has a task force made up of several committees that a number of our people are serving on from Saginaw Township. And concurrently, we also have the Saginaw Township task force and all of their committees that are kind of a living organism. We break out into subcommittees, and then we get back together to report and brainstorm, and then we break out again. Same thing is happening at the ISD level. I've received several comments back from parents and community members after our latest parent email on Saturday afternoon. So those things have all been taken under advisement and added to our list of feedback and things to consider as we put this first rough draft together. So that's my update to let you know where we are. Welcome to answer any questions or listen to any comments or concerns you may have at this time.
I just had a quick question, and if it's covered elsewhere, I apologize, but I think it kind of goes in with this. I've within the past couple of days, I've seen the Russ rental signs for registration for school for both a couple school districts, and I'm thinking that might be something that we might want to do to let people know that we're planning on being open for business as far as we know, and encourage people to contact the schools. I know I saw Carlton and I saw the Saginaw Public Schools. They've got those, not, I think sometimes they get missed when they're on the school marquee, but this is something over and above that they've got in a variety of different locations. And I think we had talked about doing it at the retreat, but I think sooner rather than later.
Yes, the last several years, Mackinac High School has used those all around the community and around the area. Alan Kern's done very well with those. I did notice on Saturday when I was coming through town that Carlton has a sign in our neighborhood. And so the superintendent and I are going to have a conversation about that. But we kind of have a gentleman's agreement in the county that we'll respect each other. And
That's why I kind of struck me. I saw the same sign, and the public schools have them out as well.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Bruce, curious. I heard scuttlebutt that Freeland may have sent out their return program as well, or plan. Is that something else you've heard?
I have not heard that. Okay. Again, we are meeting this Thursday to talk about next steps to try to get one step closer to a plan. So I'm assuming that's probably not their formal plan, but is probably some some guidelines or an infographic or some things like that. But in my most recent conversations with Mr. Carey, they're not ready to announce anything yet.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Like you say, just a little bit of gossip in the Freeland area. Okay, thank you.
Now, for those members of the community who might be watching the feed, you don't have the timeline in front of you, but I'll note that the timeline provides that this Friday, July 24th, the district's going to distribute its tentative plan to the community. And that's going to start the feedback mechanisms, the surveys, and the opportunity to pose questions that will lead to the Facebook Live event, et cetera, and refinement of the plan. So everything is starting in motion, and the community will see the first draft of our back to school, return to learn plan this Friday.
I'd just like to acknowledge and compliment Bruce and the leadership on engaging so many people in planning for this. That having wide participation throughout the district is, I think, will lead to a good plan, and appreciate that effort was put in, both by him and by all the people that are contributing.
Yes, I'd like to echo Michael, and thank you for the Facebook Live piece. I think that's going to be instrumental into our success in moving forward.
If everyone can look at their calendars for August 7th, that Friday, would a mid-afternoon, say 2 o'clock to, we want to leave enough time to have as robust a discussion as necessary, without necessarily carving out, the whole day. So I'm thinking 2 o'clock, which would give us the remainder of the afternoon, if everybody's available.
That would be better for me, I know. The later, the better.
And this is for another retreat. I just need to know what to call it in my calendar, or I won't know what it is when I look at it.
Board retreat.
Okay.
Are we still talking about the 7th, or so?
It would be the 7th at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
And,
Well, you said 2 or 3?
I'm sorry, 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
Any works for me.
I'm going to make it work. I'm supposed to be in New York City, but I'll just postpone it by a day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's a lot of pressure, Tony. I guess I have to make it work too. No, I'm kidding. That works.
Okay.
Now, I'm sorry. Will that be remote, or will we be getting together for that?
We're going to have to see what's going on in the world, and we'll advise whether it's going to be a virtual meeting or in-person meeting. In either case, it will be an open meeting, open to the public.
Thank you.
Bruce, any other updates or information you want to share about any topics?
No, I do not.
Okay.
It's not of high importance to me, but I'm curious where we stand with graduation follow-up.
Well, that's a lot of pressure, Tony. I guess I have to make.
Today we received a communication from the Saginaw County Health Department with a clarification that outdoor events are still under the executive order with a limit of 100. So I quickly got to Brian Blaine and his team. They said that would not be a difficult adjustment to make. We were operating under the incorrect assumption that we were at the 250 limit. Based on all of the different things that are flying around. That was for, I believe, regions 6 and 8 or something, the Traverse City and UP area that were lifted for a while there. So we are still under 100. We got clarification from the health department. They're going to make some adjustments with their committee and are putting communication out right away. We're planning at this point, I think it's safe to say we're still planning on keeping the August 6th date, which is a Thursday, and it will probably involve cycles of students and guests coming through the football stadium in clusters at a time. But look for more information on that from Mr. Blaine after he meets with his committee in the next day or two.
Okay, and so we're looking for school board members to participate in that?
We would invite school board members to participate. We need to be careful with that 100. And so I want to get with the high school administration and see. I know it takes a number of people to pull that off from a volunteer and a staffing standpoint. So if you do each student with 2 guests, for instance, 25 students at a time with 2 guests, that leaves 25 slots for staff and volunteers and board members and administrators. And so we'll see what they think they can do with that. But I know there's definitely a interest in doing this to honor our kids sooner than later, and we just want to make sure we're complying with the state guidelines.
Great.
What
Thanks.
about Mackinac Academy?
Mackinac Academy, Principal Alan Kern has been discussing since May that he would like to do something in October.
Okay.
And he had some very good rationale and reasons behind that, and he hasn't wavered from that. So
Okay.
so that's where Mackinac stands at this time.
Hey, Bruce, relative to the feedback you received on the letter, I'd be curious, in general, what's the overall high points or low points of what you've heard? I'm just curious as to how that was received.
It was a mixed bag. Everything from, wow, there's not a lot of substance here. It was kind of an overview of the governor's guidelines. Everything to a great deal of support from a few families about how difficult this is, and they're thinking of us and wishing us the best. And then a couple were pretty stout in their stance about some very specific things like, will you be having masks for every student? If not, we're homeschooling, those kinds of things. So I tried to respond very carefully to each group and tell them, there'll be ample opportunities. We're looking at something that provides options for our families. We want to follow the guidelines and keep safety first, but have a very strong second place of a robust learning experience. And I tried to emphasize that choice piece so that nobody felt like they were being painted into a corner.
Great.
So to answer your question, Eric, it was the full range.
Yeah, and then you have all the people that don't respond at all, but integrate the information into their thinking.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. There was much less response than I thought there would be. I expected a kind of an avalanche, and there was less than I thought there would be.
Have any other board members heard from anyone else?
No.
I haven't heard from anyone since the letter went out.
Nor have I. Tony, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Yeah, not from families and parents, but I know that there still is concern. I know we're addressing it. Safety of our teachers, right? Teachers and faculty. So a lot of the decisions I know that are being talked about absolutely are thinking about our children, but I know that there's certainly concern in that from that perspective. What does this mean to our faculty and anybody that's vulnerable?
Tony, I would echo your thoughts. I've heard from some teachers as well over the last couple of days. Yes, it seems to be escalating a bit.
Mr. Tyson and I, the STEA president, have an appointment scheduled tomorrow night to go through a number of things. I know he told me they're meeting with the entire membership on Thursday to share ideas and troubleshoot, anything they may be hearing. So Mr. Tyson and I will go over some things tomorrow as a response to tomorrow's task force meeting.
Yeah.
I did hear from a grandmother who also happens to be a nurse that one of her main concerns and that of her family is safety for everybody, but especially what the children might face and what the staff might face.
Yeah, I think it's important that we clearly focus on both of those. But I know a lot of comments quite often is about the children, where it absolutely should be. But I think that's the challenge, right? The real challenge is trying to make sure that we're taking all faculty, staff, and students in our considerations.
Before we move on in the agenda, I just want to take a moment and express my personal appreciation, and I'm sure I speak for the entire board, to Mr. Martin and to Jamie and to the rest of the administrative team, to Mr. Walde and Tony, everyone on the subcommittees and who's putting in so much time to help guide our district to the right solution for as many people as possible. Normally, in normal times, summer months, and in particular, July is a little slower, and it's time to catch your breath. And I think our administrative team right now feels like they're probably racing at the Indy 500. There's not much time to catch your breath. So know that the entire community appreciates your work, even if opinions may differ on what the right solution is. There's appreciation for all the work that's going on. So thank you very much.
Jamie and I have put in vacation time for the month of September. Just want to make the board not together necessarily, but just for the month of September.
Of 2022?
Right.
All right. Any last questions before we move on? Then, if not, I will turn it over to Jamie to cover the potential purchase of the literacy program.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit tricky because what I wanted to be able to do is let you see and flip through the samples and of the resources that we're looking to possibly purchase for our 9-12 Heritage High School ELA department. And as you know, we're using the units of study and a balanced literacy approach that uses workshop model and K through 8. And so when we did that and we had that underway, then we made the decision to move away from IB. And as we went through the process of meeting, or I went through the process of meeting with each of the departments to talk about what this impact would mean, how do we make sure that we are still offering our more advanced students a really rigorous and quality education. The ELA department was really going to be affected by that. In addition to that, we also needed to look at how does what they do currently align with now what the elementary through middle school ELA program is doing. So we kind of did both of those things at the same time. This actually started late fall, early winter-ish. We evaluated the current resources that they have and the current practices that they do. We looked at what is working really well because if it's working, we don't want to completely throw that out the window. And what is a struggle, and especially when we look at the middle school and elementary, how is it aligned and how does it scaffold from there and support that? That was the biggest challenge. It really, some aspects it does, but a lot of it didn't. Also, what the ELA department was doing was using the IB curriculum for all students, not just the IB courses. So that decision really did impact them. So we put a lot of time and energy into the ELA department to figure out what do we need, what do we want, whatever we choose to do to continue to support, and what actually could we probably maybe do a little bit better. We looked at multiple programs. We looked at 3 in total. I kind of did the legwork to look for things that could possibly scaffold from the elementary, middle school. And then we looked at those as a department along with the administrators from the high school. And there were some good choices, but the one choice that we really were drawn to that really supports, even, for example, down to some minor details at the elementary through middle school, they call it Stop and Jot, where they figure out how to recognize something in the text and then they annotate it. So they call it Stop and Jot, but really what they're doing at a very young age is annotating. This program even has something, they call it Notice and Note, and it's exactly the same thing based on that same really good research. That's what kind of drew us to this, is that the research that supports the units of study also supports this because those are best practices. So that's kind of how the process that we took. We took a really long time. We did not expect COVID to put a big wrench in this. We wanted to have this already done and a decision made and presented to the board much sooner than what it is. We went into COVID and I had to let the ELA department focus on remote learning. So we kind of stopped. That's why we're now under a kind of a time crunch, because our quote is about to run out for this program. So the program does support the ELA program. I think it's going to be it's going to be a beautiful program, K-12, when we are done with everything. This also has a big digital resource that works with specifically Google Classroom, which is fantastic. It fits right into what we want to do. When we purchased the Chromebook carts that we purchased earlier, we had already had in place the idea that we would purchase Chromebooks specifically as a priority for the ELA department, because we did not want to give them a resource that they didn't have the technology to support. So the Chromebooks will be there to support the ELA department and this program, as well as the materials. The only thing that was different in the materials is normally, this would come with a consumable book. So when the students annotate or notice a note, they would do it directly. They would open their own book and they would do it directly in the book. For a school our size, to purchase those consumable books every year is a huge expense. So one of the things they did was they said, we have the exact same thing that they would do with the consumable book, but it's in hard cover. It's a one-time purchase, but it's identical to the consumable. There's no difference except for instead of writing in the book, they're transferring to paper in that case, or they're doing it online in the digital resources. So that's a one-time purchase for this. This is all a one-time purchase, actually. We will have licenses for 6 years, which actually to find out whether or not something is working, that's about how long you need to implement it. You should be doing a curriculum review. That cycle should last every 5 to 6 years. So it'll work out really nice for us.
So with that introduction, I think procedurally, we ought to have a motion and a second, and then we can take opportunities for questions and further discussion. Anyone care to make a motion?
I think we're all trying to find it here. I think I got it here. If somebody else has it before I go ahead.
You know what? I can do it just for ease of reference. I move to approve the adoption and purchase of the Into Literature Houghton Mifflin Harcourt ELA 9 through 12 instructional program and materials for Heritage High School for the 2020-2021 school year.
Support.
Okay, discussion, questions, etc.
Jamie, very well done.
Thank you.
I love the connection back to if we have to go online, plan that kind of thing. So thank you for all your work on that.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that the one thing that they're going to do because of the way this fell and because we had this in the works before COVID-19 derailed everything. We are going to start the training for this in the spring of 2021, and we'll be ready to fully implement in the fall of 2021. And that is because this is going to be a brand new program. There's going to be a lot of training that goes into it. And I worked really hard with the ELA department and the experts from Into Literature. And we were worried that how the program is supposed to look will get really mixed up with what it looks like in relation to COVID and switching back and forth between the phases and possibly doing remote, then face-to-face, and then a version of both. So training for this will begin in the spring of 2021.
So if I'm a English student in 10th grade, kind of not an advanced student, just regular student, how is this going to look different to me than what we're doing now?
Well, some of it will and some of it won't. Some of it won't because that's what we liked about this. The things that we analyzed from our data and from the things that we were doing successfully are also in this program. And that was important to us because if it's something that we really believe is good for kids and successful, we were looking for that same process in this program. So for example, there's novels in here. What will look different is now the novels. One of the things I really liked about this is that a lot of the novels are based now on a theme, where teachers, in order, especially with the IB program, you had to kind of come up with that yourself. So there wasn't necessarily a theme, and it wasn't scaffolded off of what you may have done last year. It was very individualized based on the teacher you have. So for example, there's novels in here, which is going to look very similar, but you're going to be doing some things online. There's also a lot more differentiation, and that is done a little bit easier than what it was before, where teachers would go out and find maybe an article or something that was at a certain level, and they'd have to find a more complex version of it and then maybe an easier version of it. This kind of takes the work out of it. You could do one article, the whole class gets the same title, but based on where you're reading, yours will match your level much better. And
No, very cool. I heard somebody talk about that several years ago at an MASB meeting, and that it sounds like a good way to keep students engaged.
Yeah.
I did take a few minutes to peruse their website this afternoon, and there were some it sounds like there will be a lot of options for students to choose what they're reading, which seems consistent with what we talked about. K through 8 is, not being just one thing. And there was, the examples they gave of literature were very wide ranging, from Supreme Court opinions to, to more traditional things. So literature seemed to encompass a wide range of types of things that students might read in the real world. There also seemed to be a big emphasis on student voice and helping students, the writing part of it.
And this really, one of the things, especially with the climate of the world right now, especially the climate of the United States, it really focuses on diversity and having those discussions, but having them well prepared and having some thinking that provides, okay, so let's talk about this discussion about something that may have to do with diversity. Here's some reading. Let's see what your thinking is after this. So it really has a big focus also on diversity, and some of those. I really liked it also because there's so many standards based around argument, and people don't know how to have that argument anymore. They literally argue, but they're never taught how to have a logical debate and it really focuses on those types of things too. So I'm very, very excited about this. It makes my ELA heart completely sing when I look at this program.
So, and then a question more about the details. Why did we choose to go with this hardcover book instead of have students just do everything through a technical interface?
Well, that's part of the program. It's not just an online program. It is something that, we want kids to be able to do a blend of both of those things, where they can not always have to be online. There are a lot of kids who don't really want to scroll through. They prefer to have a book in their hand. And so it kind of covers that also. And the way that it lays it out, it kind of just blends both of those learning styles and those learning approaches together in a really nice way. You might be on your Chromebook one day and you might be in your textbook another. Most of the time, it does depend heavily on the digital side of it, but there is also the novels some of them are online and some of them are ebooks and some of them are actual books. So it kind of blends both learning styles and learning approaches together.
Thank you.
Yep.
Which is really what they're going to discover should they choose to go on to college as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm concerned that those hardcover books are going to be anchors, but I understand that, but I'm not, it's not a big enough concern that I wouldn't support.
Yeah, I don't think that the teachers will be able to just teach from the hard-covered book because of the way the units are set up. So you do a whole class. So this is where the balanced literacy fits in perfectly. So you do a whole class lesson, And the whole class lesson is based off of the essential question. So for example, this essential question is, what do we need in order to feel free? And so the whole unit is going to be going back to that essential question. And in order to do the whole class, and then there's small group and independent learning, and then there's a novel connection, all based on that, then you have to access some of the, or you're going to miss huge pieces of your resource.
Yeah.
And that's going to be part of the training too. We're going to spend, just like we did with the units of study, we're going to make sure our teachers feel very, very comfortable with how to use this program as well.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
Any last questions? Okay, Eric, will you call roll, please?
Certainly. Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Mike Colucci,
Yes.
Marianne Bird,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
Eric Smith, yes. David Jaffe.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you guys. I'm super excited about this.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you both for putting in all the hard work to bring this improvement in our curriculum to our kids.
My
So,
pleasure.
with that, we'll move into our human resources report tonight. Before the board is the approval of a new administrator for Heritage High School, as well as 5 teachers for the district. Let's start with the assistant principal for Heritage High School. Does somebody want to make that motion?
I can make it. I move that the Board of Education employ Heather M. Brinkman as an assistant principal for Heritage High School beginning in the 2020-2021 school year. This appointment to assistant principal is conditional until the district administration receives and verifies to its satisfaction all of the required information and qualifications pertaining to her.
Support.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did have discussion.
Okay.
So, and this is kind of a general question. It's not necessarily for this position. It's a general question for all of the hires. I just don't see any other place to have the discussion. I guess my question is, do any of these hires help us in our endeavor to increase the representation in our staff and faculty from a demographic standpoint?
I would have to defer to Tony on that one. I'm thinking through all the different people that are listed there. In my recollection, they do not take us closer to our goal. We did have quite a bit of representation within our candidacy pool. I was pleased about that. And then the process played out through the committee process and so forth. I'm trying to think back to the diversity level of our selections. And the ones I'm thinking of do not get us closer to our goal, to be honest with you.
We have,
Go ahead.
we have a female administrator at the high school, obviously, and I'm making the assumption we have a Hispanic teacher at Mackinac. The rest, I think, are Caucasian. Gender is identified by their name.
Okay, I appreciate the honesty and the answer, Tony. I guess it's just something we'll need to keep our eye on as we move forward with our hiring. I don't want this to turn into like a Rooney Rule thing for the NFL. For those who aren't familiar with that, that was basically a rule that stated you had to interview a minority head coaching. Whenever you had a head coaching opening, you had to interview a minority candidate. You didn't have to hire one, but you just had to interview one, and it didn't really do what it was intended to do, which is, again, have more representation from minorities among head coaches. So just as we move forward, I know we got a lot going on with COVID and these things, but I think we need to keep that to the back of our minds and be looking for active ways to improve those numbers.
We
Good.
we went out of our way to make sure that as best we could, given that you have a neutral application system, that there was some diversity in the candidates, and we had probably more diversity than we normally do or usually do. It's just that we're bringing forward the candidates that we believe will do the job the best.
Mr. Smith, I wanted to echo that. When you and I spoke about this in the past, we said the first step in there is making sure that Saginaw Township Community Schools are on the radar of candidates across all spectrums, and that when an opening appears, that they feel excited and motivated to apply for that, given what they know about the district. And I was going to echo what Mr. Skronsky said. This time I was extremely pleased. And there was some active communication on my part and on Mr. Skronsky's part to some candidates that we know personally that we felt would be a good fit here. And many of them ended up applying, a few didn't for very good reasons. And then at that point, it became a committee process that played itself out. But in regard to that first step of making sure Saginaw Township is on their minds, this was good evidence of that.
I just want to note that I'm fully behind Eric on this, and I think that we have to, we may have to consider aspects of our hiring process. I'm always concerned when I hear the terms "good fit," because when people are looking for people that they feel they fit with, that can be a problematic.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Eric, thank you for bringing that up for discussion and notation. Thank you very much.
Yep.
If there's no other discussion, then there's a motion on the table that's been seconded regarding Ms. Brinkman for the assistant principal position at Heritage High School. If we could call the roll.
Tony Duncan.
Yes.
Eric Smith, yes. Mike Colucci.
Yes.
Marianne Bird.
Yes.
Janine Coughlin.
Yes.
David Jaffe.
Yes. Ms. Brinkman, if you're watching, welcome to Saginaw Township Community Schools and Heritage High School. We are very excited to have you join our team. I know the people you interviewed with were very excited when you expressed interest in the position, and we're thrilled to welcome you into our community. So congratulations on that. We look forward to meeting you in person. With that, we have 5 teachers needing approval. The first one on the agenda is Marie Anderson. If someone wants to make that motion.
I got it. Not good. No.
I move that the Board of Education employ Marie Anderson as a teacher beginning with the 2020-2021 school year. The appointment of this teacher is conditional, receives and verifies to its satisfaction all of the required information and qualifications pertaining to her.
Support.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Janine Coughlin.
Yes.
Marianne Bird.
Yes.
David Jaffe.
Yes.
Tony Duncan.
Yes.
Mike Colucci.
Yes.
Eric Smith, yes.
Next is Lori Clary.
I move that the Board of Education employ Lori Clary as a teacher beginning with the 2020-2021 school year. The appointment of this teacher is conditional until the district administration receives and verifies to its satisfaction all of the required information and qualifications pertaining to her.
Support.
Discussion?
Would it be helpful perhaps for the audience listening to indicate where they're going and what they're teaching?
We certainly can. Ms. Anderson was approved to be a Spanish teacher at Mackinac High School. Miss Clary, who we're talking about now, would be assuming the position as an English teacher at Heritage High School.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Eric Smith, yes. Mike Colucci,
Yes.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Marianne Bird,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
David Jaffe.
Yes. Next is Jessica July, who's been recommended as an elementary position at Sherwood Elementary School.
I can do it.
Please.
I move that the Board of Education employ Jessica July as a teacher beginning with the 2020-2021 school year. The appointment of this teacher is conditional until the district administration receives and verifies to its satisfaction all of the required information and qualifications pertaining to her.
Support.
Any discussion?
Miss July hired in July.
Nice.
Sorry.
Roll call, please.
Marianne Bird,
Yes.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
Mike Colucci,
Yes.
David Jaffe,
Yes.
Eric Smith, yes.
Next is a recommendation regarding Megan Kirsch, who's being recommended for another elementary teacher position at Sherwood Elementary School.
I move that the Board of Education employ Megan Kirsch as a teacher beginning with the 2020-21 school year. The appointment of this teacher is conditional until the district administration receives and verifies to its satisfaction all of the required information and qualifications pertaining to her.
Support.
Discussion? Eric, you're up.
Eric Smith, yes. Mike Colucci,
Yes.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Marianne Bird,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
David Jaffe.
Yes. And finally, this evening, we have Justin Thalen, who's being recommended for a business teacher position at Heritage High School.
I move that the Board of Education employ Justin Thalen as a teacher beginning with the 2020-2021 school year. The appointment of this teacher is conditional until the district administration receives and verifies to its satisfaction all of the required information and qualifications pertaining to him.
Support.
Any discussion?
So this is the young man who was also hired as the football coach. It
That
looks
is
like.
correct. That is correct.
Okay. Do we already know he was going to come here as a teacher when we hired him for the football coach, or was that how did that work, or did it just kind of work out?
Both. We were hoping to find a teaching position for him. He's certified in 3 different areas,
Okay.
and also has an MBA, Master's in Business Administration. So we have him under permit while he takes his test and finishes his certification in the business class. But then also is certified in physical education, English, and social studies. So he's going to be a wonderful fit to allow us in our master schedule to cover a number of different areas.
It's a one-man school.
A utility infielder, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. And I mean, I had no doubt he was qualified and everything when we hired him. I just didn't know when I saw that he was also the football coach. I know that happened a while back, so I was just curious.
I did want to clarify the open business teacher position, because we've had another business teacher position that was open all of last year that the teacher returned to that position, is my understanding.
Correct. We have 2 teachers, 2 business teachers. We looked at that spot as a position where we could potentially reduce through attrition. However, the business program at the high school is strong and gaining momentum. And Megan Ivory has been moved back into the classroom, and then Justin Thalen would be her counterpart. The 2 of them would run the business program. And we had a long-term sub in there last year in one position, and in the second position, the gentleman retired at the end of the school year. So we had literally 2 vacancies.
Okay. Well, it's exciting to have somebody with an MBA. Does he have any actual business experience?
Tony, check with you. I'm not sure.
No, he's taught classes at his present district related to business in the area of personal finance, but no, he does not have an extensive background in business itself.
Okay, thanks.
Any further discussion? Okay, one more roll call on this area, please, Eric.
He's muted.
Oops. Sorry, I'm on mute. Let's start with Mike Colucci.
Yes.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
David Jaffe,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
Marianne Bird,
Yes.
Eric Smith, affirmative.
And with that, if any of our 5 new teachers are with us tonight, we certainly want to welcome you to the district as well. Our community looks forward to having you join our school district, and we thank you for your confidence in our schools and for joining our team. So welcome.
Welcome.
With that, we've reached the portion of our agenda for public comment. As I refresh the spreadsheet that's available online periodically throughout the evening, we haven't gotten any new public comments. So there's no public comment this evening. Before we adjourn, I just want to quickly go over the board schedule for the next couple of weeks of where our actual meetings are. The policy committee is going to meet for a 4th and final time next Monday, July 27th, to go over the final section of the policy handbook, proposed policies, so that we can distribute those to the entire board and move forward with that process in August.
And David, sorry, will that be at 6 or at 7, please?
I would prefer to do it at 6, just so we can finish earlier in the evening. But if anyone has a strong preference for 7, we can do that.
I vote for 6.
Okay.
Me too.
Thank you, Marianne.
Okay.
Works for me.
So that's what we'll plan on. As we discussed, Friday, August 7th at 2 p.m., we will have our board retreat. And more information will be forthcoming based on the guidance, whether that will be virtual or in person, and if it's in person, where it will be. And then we've got our committee of the whole meeting with a special meeting on Monday, August 10th. Those are the 3 meetings for the board that are coming up.
Is that
Are
at
we-
6 o'clock?
I don't know, Mary. That's a good question. On the 10th, I don't know that there's an extensive agenda for the committee of the whole meeting that night, so I would say it's probably going to be at 7 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
The public presentation, Facebook Live, I forget what we're calling it thing. What board participation are we looking for that?
Bruce, what are you envisioning there?
I was considering Jamie and I and a board representative to be on camera talking through these things. We could potentially have another board member serving as moderator, reading questions that have been submitting ahead of time and keeping the conversation moving, unless we choose to have another personnel member in the district handle the moderator duties. But I don't know that it's necessary to have the entire board seated up front in front of the camera commenting on everything. But that's just my opinion. I'm certainly
Yeah, well,
open to
Primary
suggestions.
reason for asking is that I may not be available. So just wanted to confirm that we weren't looking for the whole board to be there.
And what date would that be again?
Thursday, July 30th.
Okay.
Probably the best way to proceed with respect to that is if anyone has an interest in participating, just email Bruce and let him know. We'll see what the interest level is, and then we will try to devise a plan that accommodates everyone's needs.
I assumed the other 6 would defer that to the assign that to the newest board member, but you didn't. So we'll take suggestions instead.
The hazing period ended after 6 months.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Very good.
All right.
Yeah, I read that depositor thing. That was.
All right. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Support.
Any discussion? One more roll call, Eric, please.
All right. Eric Smith, yes. Mike Colucci,
Yes.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Marianne Bird,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
David Jaffe.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for being with us again tonight. And we'll look forward to seeing you and talking to you in the coming weeks as we move forward with some important things.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
week, everybody.
Good night,
thank you.
everyone.
David, is there any way maybe Marianne or we could get those dates that you read out in an email or something
Yeah,
where I can?
I'll send an email, no problem, with times and
Okay.
everything. Yep.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you,
You bet.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.